Hey guys, Rob from Georgia here with you, aka VHS82 apostrophe. Onward we go deep into space with Space 1999 and episode 3 with Black Sun, which brings back Lee H. Katzin, the director from the pilot episode, and writers David Weir. And what could be said right off the bat is the writing in this one is a huge difference. In terms of just continuity, straight out linear thought is a lot tighter. Though it does still beg some questions, minor comparably speaking to the last episode, which I still enjoyed, right? For the reasons that I detailed in the last episode. Here we got, so as they continue onward, they're faced with their inexplicable destiny, fate as it were. A black hole is on the horizon and it's slowly beginning to suck them in. Not a real deep story here, narratively speaking. Really what we got is Moonbase Alpha is slowly but surely heading towards a black hole. Black sun, interchangeably spoken, I guess. And that creates for, a minor problem, like death is coming and there's not really much you can do about it. And so Commander Koenig decides that in the better interest of mankind, he's going to load up an Eagle 1 with some provisions, send off Helena, Sandra, and Alan with one or two others, and basically that is humanity's Life Raft. And so that Eagle 1 will take off and head out away from the black sun. The moon will keep propelling towards it. Now, initially, we're introduced to the first red flag is an asteroid or meteor that nearly almost impacts Moonbase Alpha, but seemingly weirdly, it's pulled back away, ultimately ends up, just kind of exploding or whatever. And then you have the appearance of this, this mystical thing. They're not really sure what it is initially. Now remember, this is 1975, so I'm not sure exactly where astronomy was at that point. I know, it's not too far after this that the black hole, Disney's The Black Hole will come out, and I'm sure, people are starting to have fun with some of these ideas. They'll send an Eagle 1 out to investigate this phenomena, and basically it will, be drawn in and crushed. And seemingly the occupants inside and the ship is destroyed. And this, of course, leads to Moonbase Alpha getting, caught in its gravitational pull, I guess, if we can use that terminology. And really, it's just sort of like a whirlpool effect. It's just being sucked in. Seemingly nothing they can do about it. And so, like I said, they send the Life Raft off. Professor Bergman, decides, he comes up with a sort of force shield effect that will, in his mind estimate, possibly safely protect Moonbase Alpha, at least the base itself. But what you start to get at, the idea is really this is just a means, a calming effect over the rest of the population as they stare directly into death, sort of provide a calming effect that there is hope, that, let's not get hysterical. And it's, I think, really more than anything, yeah, there's slight hope maybe at work, but the reality is they are about to face their obliteration, and there's nothing they can do about it. And so one of the hard things that Koenig has to do is he decides for her better interest, he sends Helena, of course, on the Life Raft. And there's that relationship there that is starting to blossom, right? And so, where the writing really does take on a deeper effect is once the moon starts to get pretty close to the black hole, there is a sort of transformational effect on the moon. Things start to become transparent. Now we are introduced to, a few of the characters, how they are basically spending these last few minutes of their time, be it playing a guitar or in conversation, playing chess, whatever it is. Koenig and Bergman really, they provide the brunt of the conversational piece as the moon goes into the whole. And really, it's about, and I love it because Bergman says a couple things that are just so profound, I think. And there are a lot of lines given. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of meat, really, in terms of providence, theology, the existence of God. What does it mean to us? What does it mean to God, our existence? And so really it is like a plate of vegetables and not really a plate of meat, but it does act as a very fascinating way to segue into a conversational piece about science versus mysticism, say. And Victor Bergman makes the point to say that the line between science and mysticism is but a line, meaning, really. And it's interesting how Bergman, his character, really starts to embrace this notion of providence, or this notion that, as he says, you can't learn everything out of books. And so his character is one that really is, it's interesting to me. Of all the characters, I really do dig Koenig and Helena and that relationship, and Alan Carter's pretty cool, but Bergman really, to me, is sort of quickly growing on me as an interesting way to comment on the nature of knowledge, expectation, how we view things, our view of our existence in God, and what does this mean? And so, this conversation that Koenig and him will have is very interesting. Now, one of the effects of going deeper into this black hole is it's sucking the energy out of the moon, right? And so, there's this great scene where Bergman's looking out a really frosty plain glass, because the life is getting sucked out of the moon. Energy, power, heat, we're dying, right? And so we have this great moment with Bergman and Koenig. He pulls out the cigar, which he really shouldn't be smoking. He's got a mechanical heart. And my thought went somewhere else in the show. And they share like a 60-year-old bottle of bourbon. And it's great because it offers just a great moment of two guys who are contemplating or reflecting on what has happened since the explosion and since they started to hurtle through space. Is there a sort of providential hand that is guiding them to a greater purpose, or is this just but random? And if it's but random, how are they still alive? Because as Bergman says, running through the data, the statistics through the computer, they ought not to be dead, which offers the opportunity to expound on the nature of our existence in terms of our eternal existence. And it really is, almost rhetorically speaking, it really is but a conversational piece that is just sort of left out there in the air. Now, when they start to become transparent, they start to grow old, they start to expound on the amount of information and knowledge, and they realize that they still exist. And remember Richard Johnson's character from the last episode, he makes that point that matter never dies. It only transforms or changes into a new form, right? And so they're changing into a new form. It makes me wonder if David Weir thought about some of the, things from the previous episode to kind of draw some, connectivity or something. I don't know, continuity or whatever. And so they're expounding on their existence as, wait, we're still alive and we're thinking consciously and we're sharing thoughts. And then, is it God? Something sort of pushes into their realm of conversation and offers a calming effect in terms of, sort of, I don't know how to explain it, but just kind of like a calming effect. And they realize immediately, is this God? In fact, Bergman asks the question directly. Kind of reminds me of Kirk in Part 5 of the movies where he says, what would God need with a starship? So it's a direct question. He just says, are you God? And it's unfortunate because there's no reply except for, it was good to have known you. And really, they start to come out of the black hole and seemingly realize that this sort of curious act of providence has kept them safe and carried them through. It's interesting. I read somewhere in maybe it's a trivia or something, that the writers wanted to just sort of ruffle up the evangelical feathers a little bit with this by introducing, if it's God, we can just say it's God, as a woman. But I look at that a little differently. If you view it as you're staring obliteration, in effect, you're facing death face to face. And if God were to choose to immediately be in front of you, how would he choose to do that? Now, it's funny, I remember, I've had brain surgery about 10 years or so ago. And there's something about when you're in that kind of a situation and you wake up out of the anesthesia and you've gone through something pretty traumatic like that, there's always, you would rather have a nurse, a female nurse, be the first one to greet you than a male. Now, that's just me. Maybe that's not everyone, but that's me. There's something calming. There's something, maybe it's the mother, the identity of, maybe it's the closest thing we have to having our mom be there, or it was, in the middle of the night seeing my wife too, was a very calming effect. But it was a woman nurse who first sort of welcomed me out of this sort of anesthetic oblivion place, or wherever I was while they were doing the brain surgery. And so I look at it a little differently. I kind of, you could, take a fundamental position and just say, well, God's probably gender neutral, neither male nor female. He is perfect. But when appearing before you, the only thing I take slightest exception to in the writing is when Bergman receives no reply. He asks a direct question. And the only thing that, the immediate thing that pops on my mind is when Moses asks, when I go and tell the children of Israel and Egypt that I have come to take them, that God has sent me, who do I say your name is? And God is immediate with the God of Jacob, the God of Isaac, I am the great I am, right? And there is a direct reply there. And the fact that there's no reply to this direct question does offer up some interesting thought of really why, in terms of the writing. Why do we sort of skirt around it? Now, it's interesting because when they come out of the black hole, they're faced with the obvious notion that they're billions of years on the other side of the universe, and Ego 1, the Life Raft, is billions of years on the opposite side. And yet, inconceivably, they're suddenly, in their state of mourning, especially Koenig, who now has realized his relationship with Helena is severed. Ego 1 magically sort of appears on the horizon. And so this same providential hand that guided them has also guided Ego 1 and brought them into sort of a homecoming. And they all celebrate. And the joy that comes off is so heartening and encouraging. And it really works really super, super well. But there is one question that Ego 1 that is destroyed at the beginning that goes out to check out. The question is if this providential act of kindness is truly guiding them, and that means they have purpose, and that means ultimately they have an end. Why does Ego 1 at the beginning, why is it allowed to be destroyed? Why does this prevailing God character allow Ego 1 to be destroyed by the powers of this black sun? Isn't that the age-old question we always ask? Why do bad things happen? And yet, they happen. I think it's the Psalms that say it rains on the just and on the unjust. And so there is a sort of inexplicable question, but is it really inexplicable? Because we deal with this day in and day out, don't we? And where it ought to act as a measure against our faith, it ought not to, really, as hard as it is sometimes when we're dealing with trauma or real horror outside of the realm of course, cinema, right? And anyways, so I thought this show, man, I get it why these characters love the show. I really get it, man. This is like one of their favorite episodes they ever did in terms of the overall structure of the series. And I thought it was really, really, really good. in terms of character development. The matte paintings, the visual effects are stunning. And with the Blu-ray, it just looks out of this world. The Black Sun, or Black Hole it just looks so freaking beautiful. I mean, against the moon base alpha as it's approaching, it just, things hold up, man. Things hold up in a really, really awesome way. And so, I mean, I really got a kick out of this episode. I thought it was really, really, really good. I didn't mean to run this far. I'm trying not to go too far, but those are my thoughts as they are. So anyways, episode 3, Black Sun, thought of as one of the best episodes in the entirety of the series. I really dug it, man. I really dug it. But in some aspects, it does move to ask more questions than it does seek to answer questions. And really, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because the nature of it allows us to think. And that's what we ought to do anyways. And that is think, right? By the way, me and my son are most likely, we're heading on to the theater tonight to see The Black Phone, Ethan Hawke. I'm looking forward to that. If I remember when I do the next episode, which Ring Around the Moon is the 4th episode. So Ring Around the Moon, if you want to look that up, will be the next episode, episode 4. We always leave these things off with Go Bills.